There we go. Okay, I think we're ready now. So,
Mm,
this is attendance management. We're going to kind of just talk about all things attendance related. Um, First, I just kind of want to just talk a little bit. I know we have, a lot of brand new to PowerSchool users on here, and brand new to attendance. So we're just going to talk a little bit first about how attendance works in PowerSchool. So in PowerSchool, a student is assumed present unless we mark them with an attendance code. Okay. So majority of your kids, today's first day of school, they're not going to have any attendance really taken for them unless they're absent, probably. Or maybe it's a present code, like they were tardy or they we're on a school function, a field trip one day or something like that. So unless a code is given to them, there really isn't a code anything taken for them that day because Power School assumes that they're present. Um, we also kind of want to focus on attendance, and it's kind of owned by the individual building. So in my case here, I have Meta Elementary School 2 brought up. So students who are in this elementary, attendance is taken for them by this elementary, and it's kind of owned by that elementary. If I would switch to another building mid-year, that attendance stays on that student, but that new building really doesn't see it, can't change it. It can only be changed by the building where the attendance was taken. So we'll show you some ways of how to work around that. So in attendance, if I look at a daily attendance report for a student for the year, it's going to show all those days that they missed. I just can't change it if that student earned that attendance, I guess I want to say, in another building. We'll kind of go through all of that as well. Um, Daily and meeting attendance, the difference between the two. Daily attendance is the attendance that's taken for that day. It's that code that gets pulled for EMIS to be reported to the state, through all the EMIS reporting. Meeting attendance is what the teachers use. They call each period, instead of period attendance, how probably a lot of you have always thought about it. In PowerSchool, it's called meeting attendance. So as a teacher, I have 8 classes a day. I can take attendance each of those meetings. Every time that class meets, I can take attendance. So this is very popular in a high school. I might take attendance every period or every meeting. So I'll have a, third period meeting attendance, fourth period meeting attendance, and so on. Daily attendance is just what it says, taken once, and it's mainly manned and corrected and worked on in the admin portal. So you are those of you who are the attendance guru, the person that takes care of the attendance in your building, you are really mostly working with daily attendance. Um, it's connected though during that first period, typically class. Some people have it in a homeroom, some people do it first period, but you will on the bell schedule determine which period you want to be identified as your daily attendance period, or we like to refer to it as a bridge period. So during that one period of the day, we'll say homeroom, when that teacher goes to that homeroom class and takes meeting attendance, that meeting attendance, because it's identified in the homeroom as the daily attendance as well, that meeting attendance, whatever that teacher marks, will write over to daily or bridge it. We call it the bridge period. It bridges between the two. So a teacher takes attendance during that homeroom period, and I mark a student absent. It's going to mark them absent in my meeting, that period class. But because that's identified as my bridge period or my attendance period on the bell schedule, it writes it to the daily, and then the person in the admin side, you guys as the attendance gurus, can go in and work with that attendance. So it starts out, the teacher takes it, writes it to the daily, and then you take it from there. You can also write to the daily as well, and we will get into that as well. Please, if you're having questions, please ask as we're doing this. That's I'm sure if you're thinking it, someone else probably as well. Um, House Bill 410. So House, I mentioned it a little bit. House Bill 410 is pulled from what's in the daily attendance. Excuse me. So if a student is marked absent and they're absent all day, there's no problem. All's good. It'll give them, whatever your day may be, 6 hours of non-instructional time missed, or excuse me, of instructional time missed for that day. But if you have a partial day, which we'll get into, and you mark a student, they were there from, they were late. They were supposed to be there at 8:30, but they didn't get there till 10 o'clock. So you're going to mark a time in, time out. PowerSchool, our state reporting team has made some calculations, and it goes in the background and it calculates. It looks at, oh, their day was supposed to start according to the bell schedule at 8:30. He didn't get here till 10. So I know he missed from 8:30 to 10, and it will auto calculate the time missed for you in most cases. So, House Bill 410, for the most part, will auto calculate for you. It's kind of the big overview I kind of wanted to go through before we actually get started. We're going to kind of look now at some setup options, and just so you kind of understand how this all fits together. First thing I want to do is look at attendance codes. So we're in this train database. I'm going to go to school management, attendance, and I want to look at their attendance codes. Most of you, as we set up your PowerSchool environments, we talked about it's best not to have a lot of codes. Some of you in the old, systems you were in may have had many more codes than this. PowerSchool, you don't need as many codes because you can use comments, and that's kind of what's recommended. So like my school approved, it's kind of a generic school approved absence. I might use that for college visits. I might use that for field trips. Anything where the student was at school, just not in class that day, or, a college visit. It's a school approved. We still count them as present that day, but they just weren't in classes. Okay, so you're going to have something like that. So let's kind of talk about some of these. I can see you have a generic present code. And if you notice, majority of you have no code associated with that. And that's okay. That's how it should be. We do have a few community schools that have, because of the way they're audited, have added a P code as well for present. They have to mark their students present. Majority do not. You'll have maybe an absent code, and I can see in this case, the absent code the teachers can use. Okay, so in this building, the teachers can only assign a present, an absent, and a tardy. So this building uses an absent code for the teachers. Then they go in afterwards and they decide whether it's going to be an excused or an unexcused absence. Some schools just yet let the teachers do unexcused, and then the admin will just go in and change it to excused if it's an excused absence. These are all kind of how you have set them up. Every school does it a little differently. These are for full days in this building. They also have partial. So for every full day absence, they have created a partial day absence. So partial day excused, partial day unexcused. We have a medical full day excused and a partial medical excused. And if you notice, those are all absent codes because they have missed school. So we've marked them absent. Tardies, majority of our schools, but not all. It's about probably 75-25% now. Some majority have set theirs up as a present code because they've missed such a small amount of time and it doesn't count in House Bill 410 because it was such a small amount of time. They have made theirs just a present. That way it doesn't pull for House Bill 410. It was 30 minutes or less. So they have those tardy codes marked as present in this building. You may have yours marked as absent because you use it for if they've missed more than that 30-minute time that you don't need to report. We have an emergency removal in this one, which is an absent. Out of school suspension is an absent. In school suspension, that's still a present. They're there. And this building has home instruction, which they marked as a present as well, and a school approved. Let me go ahead and open one of these up. I'm going to open up this partial day excuse so we can kind of see how these are set up. This attendance code, we've given it an abbreviation, just the code, PE. There's the description. Once again, this one is an absent code because they truly are missing school that day. These are your code categories. The minimum you would have would be excused, unexcused, and tardy. So this one is an excused absent. So I have that checked. These are other code categories that this district has put together that they use for some reporting and to be able to pull some information for. Points, we don't use that in the state of Ohio, so the majority of you have that set to 0. But once again, we do have a few that have set it for certain things so that they could pull more data and some more reports. Teacher can assign, yes or no. Typically, you have very few codes that the teacher assigns, but they're there because you need to fix them, for reporting purposes. This one now has been excused absence type of a thing. So very few are marked for yes for teachers. Lock attendance record when administrator entered. So this button, I'm going to say majority of you have this checked. What this does is if the teacher marks the student absent during that bridge period, it writes it to daily. Then if you change it, it's locked. As soon as somebody in the admin makes a change to attendance, it's locked. The teacher can no longer change it, which is probably a good thing. You don't want them overwriting things that you have already fixed. So typically we have these checked. Consider an ADA calculations. Once again, this is most times checked. We want it to count, be in our calculation for our ADA calculations. So we do want those checked. An instance where you may not is we have a couple schools that have made a special code that is just the teachers use it. Maybe it's just they missed the period attendance and they've created their own code. So it really doesn't get calculated in there. Very rare though. Counts towards membership. Same type of thing. We want both of these checked because you want it calculated in your ADA and in your membership calculations. And then this is just the sort order of how it appears. Down here, this is the state piece. This works with your House Bill 410. So because this is a partial day, I did a partial excused, I'm going to check this little box that says, yes, this is a partial day of attendance. Okay. If this was a present code, I would have this box checked instead. If that box is checked, this code would not even pull for House Bill 410 calculations. It says, oh, it's a present code. No instructional time's been missed. Ignore it. We have an absent hours should not count towards House Bill 410 truancy, but they do count towards chronic absenteeism and attendance reported for EMIS. This box is typically checked for your out of school suspensions. We don't want to double ding them. We don't want to report them as truant when we told them they can't come. You can't come for 5 days because you've been suspended. Well, we don't want that to count towards truancy because it's kind of double dinging them. But it is still counting towards their chronic absenteeism and their attendance as missed days. And then the final box is the most recent one. It's been a few years here now. These are your medical excused absences. We don't want those to count towards House Bill 410 chronic absenteeism, but they still do get reported for attendance for EMIS because they were absent. So that's what these are. These are important. Someone in your district, will make sure those are all checked in the proper ways. Okay, that's your attendance codes and kind of how the setup works.
Laura, there are a couple questions in the
Sure.
chat. One is from Nick. What in time and out time is used for HB 410 calculations? If a student comes in at 10 and you said school starts at 8, where in PowerSchool is that 8 a.m. set?
That is set on your bell schedule.
Mhm.
So I can show you real quick here. So if I go to scheduling and bell schedules, so when your district personnel creates the bell schedule, and let me open one up, they determine which period is your attendance period. So in this building, first period is their attendance period. So they have a default in and a default out time. So that's the time that your day starts for your students and the time that the day ends. So in my example there, that student was supposed to be here at 8:30, but they didn't get here till 10. So when I entered the time in, I said they arrived at 10. So as soon as they see a time in and time out, they know this is a partial day. So in the background, I come here and I look at when your day was supposed to start. So I know he was supposed to be here at 8:30, didn't get here till 10. So he missed, 90 minutes of instructional time. So that's where that pulls.
And then the second question is from Julie. Can you restrict the teacher to tardy only 2 through 9 period? We don't want them to have access to that first period.
No,
Maybe so.
no, it's if they have access, there's no restriction to certain periods. It's yes, they can use that code or no, they can't. I don't know that I've ever had that question asked. That's
I was
interesting.
going to say the same.
All righty. So that's kind of your attendance codes. And then the other thing I kind of wanted to show you was attendance conversions. So for every code that you have created, you need a conversion. And that is under our code today column. In my case, I can see it says defined. So that means that mine are all finished. If I didn't fill one of them in, it would say partial and let me know how many. But I'm going to go ahead and click on this so you can see. So what this does, this has nothing to do with House Bill 410. Let me start off there. This is strictly a core PowerSchool function. So majority of your PowerSchool reports that are created are all running off of what you have in these conversions. The only thing that's going to look at House Bill 410 are the reports that our state reporting team for PowerSchool, the Ohio State reporting team, has created, and we'll kind of look at those later on. But I just wanted to give you this information because this is also needed for that, so that your, I guess, how do I want to put it? Your attendance code works, I guess. If I were to put in this absent code for a student, but I had nothing in here, it was blank, PowerSchool would ignore it because you didn't have a conversion. So it's very important that every attendance code has a conversion or it kind of gets ignored in the calculations in the background for just making core PowerSchool work with attendance. So I'm going to have a 0 in there. So this is your daily attendance value for this code. So if I'm present, I'm getting a 1. I was there that day. If I was absent, I'm getting a 0. So my full day absent codes all have a 0. My partial day absence codes, I put a 0.5 in there because that's, midway through. It's going to get me close to kind of a House Bill 410, but they're not exact. So, if I put this student in as a partial day, if I run a core PowerSchool report, it's going to give me a half a day that I was there and a half a day that I was absent. But it may have only missed an hour in House Bill 410 time. So they're not going to match exactly. Core PowerSchool reports and House Bill 410s are not going to be an exact. We can get them close by entering this half day, but it's not going to be an exact match. Okay, so you can see I do half days for my partials. My full day medical is a 0. My tardies, I count my tardies in this building as present, so they have a 1 value, Emergency removal, we put as a half because typically they're there and, they have some problems that they need to go home. So we give them a half, considered like a partial. Out of school suspensions at a full day absence. My in-school suspensions are considered present, so they all have ones as well. Once again, runs core PowerSchool calculations, but is needed to make this attendance code work. Okay. Any questions? We're going to get into looking at the how to do the attendance now. But before we
We are
start,
good on questions in the chat.
okay. Alrighty. So let's go ahead and what we're going to kind of start talking about now is in that quick reference card. So the daily attendance quick reference card and how to take the attendance. So in the mornings, when school starts, your teachers are once again during that daily attendance period that you've identified on that bell schedule. Most times it's like a first period or a homeroom. The teacher takes attendance during that class, marks it in the meeting for her, but also then moves it over to the daily for you to begin working and taking attendance. Those things you need to get fixed before the all call goes out to the parents. So to do that, we start on the start page. You need to be sure you're in your building and in the proper year. Now, because school has not started, we are going to be working out of last year's data. So I have information there. So I'm going to still be in the 23-24 school year. So I'm going to choose the attendance. And here are all the different attendance functions. I'm going to go ahead and start with the daily attendance. As the attendance guru in my building, I'm working and cleaning up attendance. So I'm going to go to daily attendance. And this screen will pop up. It defaults to the current date. So when you come in here, school started at 8:30, about 9 o'clock, I'm coming in here and starting to work on attendance. So it's going to have 8-6. It's going to list the students who are absent that day. Well, of course, we're not in session, so I'm going to back up here and go to April 1st. All right, so we're going to pretend it's April 1st today. First thing I see is I have a list of all the students who have been marked absent by the teachers. So right now I have 58 students. If you notice the tabs at the top, these are those code categories. Remember I said that you have to have an excused, an unexcused, and a tardy. So those code categories are here. Here are the 58 students who have been marked with an absent code. We have 470 students who are default present. They were not marked absent. So if I wanted to see, okay, here's who's absent, but maybe I want to see who's present today, I could click on that. We have 470 students present. That's the default present. Those are the students who had no code entered for them. I have 3 that are marked present. The difference with this is if I click on it, they were given a code. They were given a tardy. But remember, in my building, the tardies are present. So these are the kids who have no code. These are the students that were given a present code. So I can see who those are. Here are my 40 kids who have been marked excused. Now, these 40 excused are probably part of this absent group as well because they're absent, but these are the excused. These are the unexcused. If I add those up, there's my 58 that have been absent. 40 of them are excused, 18 have been given unexcused codes. And then there's my 3 tardy, which really kind of matches my present. This could be higher because I had other present codes, but it just so happened these are the same today. Okay, so those are just ways to help narrow down if I want to just work on certain things. Maybe I want to see who are my excused, or maybe I want to go through my unexcused and say, oh, have I gotten notes on any of these? Do I need to change those codes? So that's a way for you to break those down into those different categories. it's going to default to your absent students. And then if I come down to my next area, this is that filter. So I can filter these down even more. If I don't want to see all of these codes, maybe I only want to see a certain code, I could put that filter in there. If I look right here by the absent, it's telling me right now all my absent codes are PE, ME, PME, AE. Those are the codes that are marked as absent. Those are the codes that are being pulled. But I could change that. Maybe I want to see attendance codes that equal just my MEs, my medical excused, and apply. And then it only gives me those medical excused those are the ones I want to work with right now. Okay, or I can get rid of that and let's go ahead and see them all again. So the filter is a nice little feature too to help narrow down what you want to work on at a certain time. But these column headings, they're also sortable. So I could come in here, maybe I want to sort it by grade, or I want to sort it by the attendance code so I can put my codes together in groups. Those are all sortable. I'm ready to work on my attendance. So maybe I came in here and I see that I have an unexcused absence. Let me go ahead and put that back in there. Oops. So attendance code equals, and I want to do one of my unexcused. Those are the ones I want to work on right now. Okay. I know. Oh, yep. Maxine Hill. I just got a note. I need to change that from an unexcused to a medical excuse, maybe. They brought in a doctor's slip. I can go to this person. I can click on edit. There's my student. Here's my code. It's no longer absent unexcused. He was medical excused. They brought in a doctor's note. Okay. I can come here then and change my comment or maybe add to the comment. Okay. Always put a comment. The auditors love comments. It could be a simple mom called, child sick. In this case, I want to put doctor's note on file. You'll come up with kind of a common theme of the comments that you like to use. So I now have a doctor's note on file. So I changed this to a medical excused. If you notice, I have he's no longer on my list because I changed it. Right now I have it sorted for AU codes. So as soon as I change that to a different code, that student dropped off my list and I can work on the next. I also have this little, I talked about comments. That means there is a comment for this student. I can click on it and see. Okay. Notes are real important. You know, maybe it was a school approved function and the band, this child was a member of the band and they were out that day because they were marching in a parade somewhere. So always want to put notes. It helps you because this is, early in the year. It comes the end of the year. I'm not going to remember why that student was absent. Notes are very important. Always enter a note. Um, Student name, if you see it's a blue hyperlink, I can click on this student's name and it's going to take me to that student's page where I could come in and look at other things, which we'll go over these other pages. But maybe I want to just go, to his attendance page and fix some things here. Or I want to run maybe a daily attendance info report, which I'll show you these here in more detail. So that's my individual student's page. I can click on that student's name, takes me to that individual student in a new tab. Very nice. Let me go back to this report. We talked about the pencil. Phone number. Notice how those are a blue hyperlink. Maybe I need Ethan. I still haven't received a note for Ethan and I want to check on what's going on. I can click on this phone number and it's going to show me the different contacts for Ethan. It's, when I first saw there, I had the one phone number. Well, that's his home, oh, nope, I'm not sure which phone number that is. It must be what's listed as his home phone number. This shows the contacts. So I can contact, maybe I want to call dad and ask where this note is. Here's his contact information. Or maybe Ethan didn't show up for school and I'm a little concerned why Ethan didn't show up. I can make it the phone call. And if no one answers with dad, I can move to the next person and mom. Okay, very nice feature that you get all of that information. If you fill in your homeroom, in this building I do not have it filled in, it would show who the homeroom teachers are. And then of course the code. This is how you'll be in this page a lot, working on cleaning up these absences. Go ahead and remove my filter so I see all of my codes again. Apply. So,
Hey, Laura, I don't know if you want to point this out, but maybe if you go into edit a student's absent, maybe show them where the clock in and clock out is if they have a partial absent after they
that,
maybe came.
yep, that's what I'm just getting ready to do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Now this was cleaning up those daily attendances. But good ideas, Kim. I have a student that I know this is cleaning up, I guess, from what the teachers have reported for you. Let me show you in the morning when you come in and you start getting those phone calls. Mom calls and little Johnny's not going to be in today. He's not feeling well. You don't have to wait to enter that attendance. I could come up here and I could click the word add. Okay, I can click add. It opens up this little drawer. I can type in the student. Nice thing about this search is I can type in first name, middle name, or last name. It does not matter. It's going to find all of those students. So in this case, I put in John. It could be for their last name Johnson, or maybe it's for the middle name John, or it could have been a first name. All right, I'm going to find the student and I can enter the attendance for that student. So mom called, Johnny's going to be absent today. I'm going to mark him whichever appropriate code. Okay, so I'm just going to mark him absent right now, and I'm going to put a note. Okay, full day absence. As far as I know, Johnny's sick. He's not coming in at all today. And I can save that. It adds him to the list. And then when the teacher goes to take attendance that day, she's going to see that he's absent, or she can mark him absent. It's not going to overwrite because remember on that attendance code, I said if I enter it in the admin portal, teacher can't overwrite it. So she would not be able to change that code because you've already entered it. All right. Now let's say that Johnny ends up feeling better, comes in at 10 o'clock. I can find Johnny on the list right here. I can say edit, and he was no longer absent. He was a partial day excused absent now. No longer absent. He was partial day. And then I can come down here and say, you know what? He ended up coming in at 10 o'clock. And you always have to enter a clock in and a clock out. So he came in at 10 and then he stayed till the end of the day. Oh, I don't know. I didn't write down what the end of the day was. I'm going to think it's PM. And then I could add a note here if I like as well. Whatever I want, what you think would be appropriate. And then I save it. Then this is our first clock in, clock out for a partial day. What this does then is, remember we looked at the bell schedule. So it's going to say, oh, Johnny has time in and time out. So if I look at the bell schedule, he was supposed to be here at 8:30, but he didn't get here till 10. So now he is going to have an, 90 minutes of non-instructional time well, let me say of instructional time, sorry. 90 minutes of instructional time that he missed for House Bill 410 calculations. And I'll show you that page here in just a second. Okay, so I can save this, and he now has his time in and time out because he has a partial day of absence. I can also do that from this page as well. So maybe Johnny was leaving early, or someone else. I'm going to stick with my Johnson name here. I'm going to pick a new student. So he came down to the office, wasn't feeling well at 11 o'clock. And he was marked originally present because he was here, but now he's leaving early. So I can come in here and he's in the office. We're sending him home. He's not feeling well. So maybe it's a partial medical, or he's going to the doctor at 11 o'clock, let's say. So he left at 11 o'clock. I'm going to put in here um, doctor appointment, and I'm going to come here because he was a partial day. So he was here at 8:30. This is always the time that they were present that you're entering. So he got here at 8:30, but then he left at 11. You don't need a comment in both spots. That's up to you. Some like to add it in both. Do not need it in both. This is kind of the comment for that individual time. This is the comment that goes along with the daily code.
Laura, we have a question. What does the exclude checkbox on the create new clock in and clock out do?
That really for Ohio does nothing.
Right.
Just so you know. Remember, this is used all over. So in Ohio, we do not use that exclude button, so it can be ignored. As well as these minutes can be ignored. The minutes is what that particular bell schedule you have for that day, minutes add up to. The way we do things in Ohio and how we build the bell schedules, because we have to include lunch, those minutes don't always add up to the right amount. So don't get too hung up on minutes and this exclude. Those pieces really aren't used in Ohio. We have, you know, the calculations that are built in the background that pulls that information. All right. So in my case here, Johnny came in the morning. He was here from 8:30 till 11 o'clock. He left at 11 to go to a doctor, and then I can save it. So you can add for those students who are leaving early that don't have a code, or if you're fixing students that was marked absent but came in later, those would probably already be on your list that you could come and edit. Talked briefly about those phone calls. So in the morning, you're getting all kinds of phone calls, or school just started and you've got that line of students who are late and they need to be, given a note to come in to go to class, and you want to mark them tardy. So we'll use that example right now. So I see that Elizabeth is in my tardy line. I can go ahead, mark her tardy, and I can put a comment in, and I can put in the time. So it's 9 o'clock. She was 5 minutes late. And till the end of the day. Okay, and save. So she's all set. She came in tardy. She got here at 9 o'clock. Now, unfortunately, I can't show you this piece because it only works on the current date. So if this was truly today, I was entering this time, it would have this little check box that you could check, and it says print admit slip. And then you could print that, and it's a little sheet of paper that shows that Elizabeth Johnson arrived at 9 o'clock, and she can take that with her to the first period class. Okay. Unfortunately, it only will appear if it's on the current date. So you're going to have to take my word for that one. But there is an admit slip. And I think there is some pictures of it in your in that quick reference card. All right. Another button I haven't talked about is this keep open, because I still have more people than just Elizabeth in line. So I can say keep open. I can save. and then I can choose the next person. Okay, and Evan was late too, so I can mark him tardy. Just saves you a little bit of time. It has that, you know, keeps the box open. These two are siblings. They both overslept. They both got here at 9 o'clock. As far as I know, they're going to be here for the remainder of the day. Okay, and I can save it. I still have keep open, and now I can choose the next person. A little bit of a time saver. And Ryan, he was tardy as well. He missed the bus. And so he didn't get here until 9:30. All right, so I'm done. All of my students that are in line have been checked in. I can save, and it closes my box then. If you notice, I now have 6 tardies instead of the 3 I started with, because I've added 3 more for today.
Laura, someone else is asking, can we mark medical excuse if the parent tells us they have a medical appointment, or do we need to wait for a note?
That is going to be your school's policy. How
Right.
that's there's no definitive answer, I guess, for that. Schools have their own policies on how they use their codes. I was looking when we were looking here, I saw that some of these, they marked them absent and then they put a note in there that, they need a doctor's slip, then they can change it to a medical type of thing. It's all those are things that are going to be, I guess, an individual school policy on how you guys want to code them. You may have more codes that are used for specific things than what I have in here too. And that's a very good question. One of the things that auditors like is consistency. So I'm in Meta Elementary School too, but the way I use codes should be the same way that the high school uses codes or the middle school uses codes. You want to have that consistency in your district, that if I'm marking that student absent until I put a note, everybody probably should be doing that. So that's something you're going to want to talk with your administration and make sure how you guys, want to handle those situations and be consistent across the board. They like consistency, everyone's using the codes the same way, and they also like comments. Those are the 2 big things that we hear with audits. Any other questions so far about manually entering in the attendance, correcting the attendance? Something while I'm here, I want to kind of discuss with you, and this is always um, I kind of bothersome, I get from the districts, and I totally understand it. With daily attendance, you are only allowed to use one code. So, my student that came in tardy, let's say, Evan. Evan came in tardy. He didn't get here till I think he was what, a 9. Oh, I didn't mean to click on his name. Let me go back. I meant to click on the edit. Okay, so Evan, remember, he was our one that came in at 9 o'clock because he overslept. Well, he comes down about 11 o'clock and just is not feeling well. He needs to go home. So I have to come in here and I can put another time, or I can correct this time in and time out. We'll talk about that here now. So now Evan, I need to fix this. He didn't stay till 3 o'clock. He came in at 9, but he left at 11. And I can put a note and save it. Oh, oh, I didn't change my PM. There we go. AM. Okay. So Evan was tardy. He came in at 9, but he left at 11. Well, I probably don't want to keep this as a tardy code anymore because he is now absent. So you have to make a decision, and your district will determine this as to when you make changes and what you make them to change to. Since he's now absent, I'm probably going to need to mark him as one of my absent codes, or maybe my partial excused absence. I might want to put a note in here. Was tardy, overslept, and then I can add the second note. Okay. That way I don't lose that information that, yeah, he started out as tardy and then he ended up getting sick and went home at 11. I added that note down here as well. But because I'm now changing this to a partial excused, that tardy really will not, he'll now go from that tardy list to the partial excused absence day list. And I know that that is, some people are really upset by this idea. They don't like that, what if he came back then at noon and then left again at 2 o'clock to go to a doctor? You know, that's where you have to make decisions. He started out, he was partially excused because he was sick, came back, and now he needs leave early as a doctor. Well, do I mark that as a medical? Do I mark that as a partial excused? Those are decisions, your district will come up with a policy. Some like to put whatever time they miss the most. Maybe he missed the most time as a partial excused, so I'm going to mark the PE code. Or some of them like to say, you know what, I'm going to mark it as a medically excused because he was out partially for medically excused, and that's the least, um, I guess, counts against the student the least, maybe is what I want to say. We can't guide you on how to determine which code to use in those cases where a student in a single day has two different, you know, reasons that they missed. That's going to have to be a district policy on how you want to enter those codes. I know that's always a big concern for people, but unfortunately, that's the way PowerSchool works. It's just one code per day. We haven't had any issues with auditors questioning it, or bothered by it. I think as long as you have a policy and that's what you're doing, they're good with it. Okay. Questions on that? No?
Nope, good to go.
Okay. So let's go back over to the attendance and let's look at some of these other attendance management. Um, we have consecutive absences. If you choose to set this up, you can set it up that it will show you if a student has missed 5 days in a row or 10 days in a row. That requires a little setup, but it'll run a report. I don't know if it's even set up in here that will tell you if anyone has any consecutive absences. In this case, we don't, probably because we're in the summer as well. Clock in, clock out meeting attendance calculations. So that's, those of you, you can turn on clock in and clock out in meetings. We have very few that have done that because we work as a daily in Ohio. So, but it is an option. We talked about the daily attendance. Let's talk about meeting. I'm going to skip that one for a second. Let's talk about meeting attendance. So just like daily, I can run a report here or a list of meeting attendance. So let me go back to my April 1st. And here are the meeting attendance. I'm in an elementary. They only take attendance during that first period. A high school and quite a few middle schools, you may require your teacher to take attendance every period. So you can see this looks a little differently because it has the periods across the top. So I can see these students were marked by the teachers in meeting first period. There's also, they've been changed because the teacher can only enter an a tardy, and a present code. So these are ones that in the office we have overwritten. The teacher would not be able to change them again. But this is where, let me go into the high school real quick. So you can see meeting attendance. And I'm going to go back to that April 1st date. Okay, so this is a little different. See, at my high school, they take attendance every period. So I can see what has been entered. So some of these I might question. Why was this student not marked absent fourth period? Or maybe this one, why was this student here? And then all of a sudden a teacher marked him absent. Did they skip that class? Okay. That's one of the reasons people like to look at this too, is I can see he was present and then all of a sudden he missed a class, then he was back. What happened here? This is, remember again, meeting attendance is the teacher's attendance. These are what the teacher has entered. Um, It doesn't have to be managed by you in the office, but some schools like to do that. They like to come in here, and if a student was marked absent first period, they like to come in here and mark them absent for the rest of the day. So their thoughts are that way the teacher knows the student is absent. Other schools are like, no, I don't want to do that because I want the teacher going in and marking the student absent if they missed during their own periods. Maybe the student came back. So I want to know that the student came back. That's up to you. If I wanted to change this, the student was absent today, I could come in here to meeting. I can pick the code. So they were absent excused all day. As far as I know, I can come in here and I can click and change every one of these to absent excused, or if it's for the whole day, I can just say set all. Then every period is changed to AE since he's out all day long. You can manage this, not needed because it's the teacher's attendance. It's kind of a record keeping. It doesn't get pulled for House Bill 410. It is just for that teacher to know whether or not that student missed my class today. Biggest difference. Everything else on the page is basically the same. You have your tabs up here. This is different. First time we'll see this. I can come in here and I can see what percentage of teachers have taken attendance. And I can see 73% have taken attendance, or I can click on the little I. It opens up a nice little chart where I can see green means they've taken attendance every period. Yellow means they've taken attendance some of the periods. And red means they've not taken attendance at all today. So on April 4th, if I click on Nicole, I can see she's taken attendance. Oh, missed this class. And maybe that's okay. Maybe she doesn't need to take it during that class, but it's going to show red because she didn't take it that period. This student or this teacher took it every day, but let me look at what's going on with Susie. Oh, she only has the one class where that teacher's an off or that student is an office helper class. So she doesn't take attendance on that one. The good thing about this report is it looks at your bell schedule. So if I see that it's 10:02, that means that the students will have been in periods 1, 2, 3, and 4, let's say. Period 5 won't be included in this calculation. So it's only looking at the periods that have met up to this point in time, and it marks, yes, they've taken all the attendance up to that point in time, but this teacher has not. She missed period 3, type of a thing. So this is time sensitive. So whenever I run it, it looks at the clock. It knows these periods should have met. Has this teacher taken attendance all of those periods or not? I can sort it, order by alphabetic. Those who have taken attendance at the top, or maybe the ones who haven't go to the top. And I can call, hey, why didn't you take attendance? I need your attendance. First thing you'll probably want to do is run one of these, and I'll show you another place where you can. That's your meeting attendance. Let's talk about mass update attendance while we're here. So first thing you have to do is make a selection. I'm updating attendance for a group of students. This is a wonderful tool that can be very dangerous. So you have to be very careful when you're working with this. And I'll explain why. First thing I want to do is we talked about that band. Those band students are going on a trip today, and they have to leave school. They're not going to be here at all. They went on a trip to another state, going to be in a parade. So I can find these students by doing a search. And if I type in band, I have an activity of band, I think, or maybe I don't. All right, we're going to change it. It's the baseball team or the cheerleaders. I'm trying to find a high school group. Or, there we go. It's my varsity football team. They're leaving early today. So they're not going to be here today at all. They went to a camp. So I can do equals 1 to find those students who have been marked with an activity of football. So way to search, I have 104 boys that are on the football team. They're going to be gone today. So that's my selection. I can click continue. It's going to take me to the mass update attendance page. So I have my 104 football players. So on April 1st, stick with that date, April 1st to April 1st, only one day, they are all absent. Codes to scan for. So it's going to look for any codes that that student may have for that day already. So I probably want to look at all codes. And attendance code to set, they're going to be set with, do I have a, oh, they call it absent present. They're school approved. The students are absent, but they're really present. That's what they've called them in this building. So that's going to be my present code that I'm changing these to. So if other than default present, do you want them overwritten? Well, this is where I'm going to think about this. I mass chose these students. There may be a kiddo who isn't going because they're on a family vacation, or I know they're going to be out because they were suspended. I probably don't want to overwrite those codes and change them to this new code. So I'm going to say don't overwrite because they had an absent code in there for a reason. They were out, suspended on a trip, whatever it may be. But I'm going to say football camp. They were at football camp. Missed April 1st, 104 students. I looked for any code that was there. I'm changing the code to absent present. I don't want to overwrite if they had a code already in there, and I'm changing it to football camp. I am double checking my date is right Everything's right before I hit submit. And let me warn you, this is where it's very dangerous. Every year we have at least one school that will take all of their seniors or maybe all of the students in the building. They were going to the zoo at the elementary. So they've grabbed all of their students, they come in here and they enter a date, but they forget to enter the second date. Or they forget to enter dates at all and it does the whole year. And I change everything for those kids to this new code for that whole date range. And we have it every year. They wipe out a whole year of attendance for a group of students. And that's not very easy to get back. It's a lot of manual work to get those things fixed. So wonderful, wonderful tool, but please be sure you're double checking you have the right selection of students, the right date ranges, what code you want to change it to. Do you want to overwrite? Sometimes that might be the case. And then I can submit. Takes it a minute because it's, writing that code to all of those kiddos. So now if I go back, oops, I want to go back to the start page. My selection of students are still there. Okay, I can look at this kiddo. And this is the attendance overview. Just takes me to that page. This is the old school way of taking attendance, and I will show you that in a minute. But if I look at April 1st, he now has that code of AP, absent present code. He was one of them. And here's my comment, football camp. It was a way to mass add that code for that group of students. Another way to mass add that you may use is it may be an individual class. Instead of a group of students by an activity, you may have that teacher that's taking a field trip. So I can go to people, staff, teacher schedules. Here's all of my teachers in my building. I'm going to choose Mr. Bibler. Okay. He has art classes, it looks like. And semester 2 right now. And his first year drawing classes are going on a field trip. So semester 2. So I could come in here and I can choose those drawing 1 classes. Just the drawing 1 classes are the ones going on the trip. And I think I got them all. And I can say, select those, select all students. It's going to give me a list of those kids. So that's my way I can select a group of students by a class. So, oh, I think that did pick all students. I was afraid of that. Select by hand feature as well. Maybe I chose more than I needed, or maybe I know that some of these students are not going. They did not turn in their permission slips. I can remove them from the list and update selection. Now I have these students. They're the ones going on the field trip. I can come right here. There's also under where's it at? Mass. Did I pass it? Mass family links. Oh, here it is. Attendance. Mass update attendance. So I can go in this way if I make a selection this way. And I can do the same thing. What day are they going? Okay, they're just one day. And I'm looking at all codes. It's that absent present. They're going on a field trip. I don't want to overwrite in my case again. Um, whoop, oh, field trip. Maybe it's my class field trip. And submit. So those students then have that code attached to them. Something, I talked about auditors. They like seeing those field trips, anything like that, college visits, even though it's still a present code, they want you to put a code in because they want to know that the student was considered present. They were on a school function, but they were not in class that day. It's also good for the teachers to know that, yeah, I had class today, but Johnny was not. I don't want to not give him credit for that because he was on a school function type of a thing. So you always still want to put a code in when the student is not in class. Alrighty, let's look at some more of these pages. So we did daily meet, we talked about update meeting. Here's your meeting attendance. Recalculate daily attendance. Not something you're going to want to do. If you have an instance where some things need to be fixed, it's best to put a case into us and let us take a look and let us run that function for you. Present students dashboard. Wonderful report, um, actually developed by one of our developers. This is kind of that emergency report. Maybe you guys are in a lockdown situation or there's a fire drill type of a thing. I can run this report on my April 1st date. What it does is lists every student in your building. Okay. So it's as of 10/14. That's when the fire alarm went off. This is where the students were in their day at 10:14 a.m. Maybe I need to backdate that. Maybe it was at 9 o'clock, 9:14 a.m. and apply it. We ran actually at 9 o'clock, so here's where they were. So when they go outside or they're on a lockdown, whatever the situation may be, it's going to show me that Gabrielle is in Mrs. McCoy's class, which is the stride class. And there's the room number. I can sort this by course. Sort it again. So my World Lit, here's my list of students who are in the World Lit class in room 211. I can see if they're absent. So if I go down to Mrs. Sherman's class, room 211, I can see these students are there, but these would not be there because they were absent. It's a nice report. It was actually kind of some requested from some districts that were working with their police departments, trying to come up with a plan that if I'm on a lockdown, I need to know where the students are at a particular time of the day, and so I can find out what I need to do. Um, it's very nice. I can see that these students were absent, so they're not going to be in the room, but these students should be in the room. I can make a longer list. I can also sort by any of these columns. I can come down here. Oh, I forgot to show you. I was going to show you the top. Street address, they liked having that as well. So that way, if I need to go check on a student, I have the address when I run the report. So I want to go check on Madison. It says she was on a field trip, but there's some question about that. I can go check, go to their house and check. I can come down here and I can download this list if I want to print it out and hand it off to whoever may need it. Very nice report. Looks at the bell schedule, so it knows at 9:14 it's period 2. So here's all of the students with their period 2 class. Alrighty, so attendance, so that's the present students dashboard. And then this is the same as this other refresh premier attendance view. Something, if you need ran, it's best to let us know. And then we're going to talk about reports later. So I'm going to skip over these at the moment. Well, let me back that up. I'm going to show you this attendance submission report. When we run the meeting attendance, I showed this report to you. So before you start taking attendance or correcting attendance, let's say that, editing the attendance that the teachers have taken, you probably will want to go to your attendance, run this attendance submission status first. And unfortunately, it's going to default to today's date, but we have nothing. So I'm going to go on back to my April 1st date. And remember, this report that will show the list of students, or excuse me, teachers, and whether or not they've taken attendance. So if I'm going to go in, school started at 8:30, it's 8:45, teachers should have attendance. I need to start correcting things before phone calls go out. So I'm going to run this report real quick to see which teachers maybe have forgotten. And I can give them a quick call and say, hey, Susie, don't forget to get your attendance in, type of a thing. So this is a nice little report for that. And I'll go through the reports a little later. That's all of your attendance tabs from the start page. All those functions. Once again, most times you're going to be coming in, you're going to run that report, see who's hasn't taken attendance, get that all taken care of, and then you're probably going to go to the daily attendance and start working.
Laura, we do have another question.
Okay.
Does changing the daily code impact clock in, clock out related HB 410 calculations? For example, our auditors asked that our daily codes match our suspension data. So in-school suspension, an in-school suspended student who left early one day was clocked out early and had their daily code changed to partial unexcused. If we go back in and change it to PU or IS, does that impact the clock in and clock out in HB 410 calculations?
It 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 doesn't really, I mean, the time isn't going to matter, but that code does. So if you're changing it from an in-school suspension to a partial day excused absence, let's say, that's what that day is going to be considered for all hospital reporting, EMIS reporting. It's no longer reported as an in-school suspension. So those are the type of things that you as a district need to determine what way you want it coded. In that case, maybe you do need it coded as an in-school suspension instead of a partial day unexcused because, the student was sick or something. Okay. Only one code per day. So your district will have, a policy on how to do those situations that are kind of, the student really had two codes they needed to report. That, I can't answer how to, but it is impacted. Yes. Not necessarily the time in and time out. I mean, that's going to be recorded as instructional time missed, but it's the actual code is how you want that being reported as an in-school suspension, out-of-school suspension, or, an absence type
Hey,
of a thing.
Laura, this is Nick who asked the question. Can I
Mm,
ask one follow-up?
Sure.
So my question is, um, yes, we do need to switch it back to in-school suspension. My question is, if that scholar was like missed an hour because
Mhm.
of the clock out, but we changed the daily code back to IS, which would indicate like a full day of attendance, is
Oh,
that time missed still being calculated for HB 410
yes.
purposes?
Time. Okay. Very good question. And that's something I can show you. That's a very good question. I did not touch on that. Daily attendance. So let's go back in there. So in that case, I can see what you're saying. You want to show that time in and time out, but it's not going to calculate properly because really and truly, well, let me just get in there and show you. Be easier. Okay, so let's find one of these students. I'm going to edit this. Alrighty, so the student was absent and you have an override. Overrides really come into a play a lot at the high school because you have those students who are special situations. It does a pretty good job of auto calculating, looking at that code, that time in, time out. It looks at percent of time in the background for students, all of those things to come up with an auto calculation of how much time was missed. But you always have those special circumstances, just like what you were talking about, where it was an in-school suspension, but they left a little early. What time do I want to put in? If that time is not calculating the way you expect it to, high schools, JVS students, college students. Sometimes things just can't calculate the way you want it to for an individual student. You have an override. So maybe this is calculating because I have a time in and time out. Let's say he was there, came in at 9 until the 3 o'clock. And I'm going to save it. Oh, what did I do? Oh, he's okay. I'm in another building. They get done at 2:30. Come on, Laura. 30. There we go. All right. So he has a time in and time out. He really missed, that hour and a half, but he had some other things going on. I don't want it to calculate as an hour and a half missed. So I can do an override and I can change this to really, I only want an hour of it to count as time missed. Okay. You can do an override. It will override whatever that auto calculation has worked out to be. This does get used occasionally. Maybe I have a student that I know they had permission to come in at not at 8:30 every day. They have permission to come in at 9. So in this particular case, I don't want him counted as missing an hour and a half. I only want him counted as missing an hour. So you do have the option to do an override. Override will always override with the auto calculation. Okay, I did
That's
forget.
super helpful. Can
Yeah,
I, one last, and you don't have to talk about this next if it's going to come up later.
okay.
I heard you say that looking at the minutes calculation in this clock in, clock out might
Hmm.
not be the right way for like HB 10-4 calculations. So if you were, I heard you say, if it doesn't look like you're calculating the absence right for a student,
Hmm.
then you can use the override. Where do we
Yes.
look to see that the calculation is like right or wrong when it comes
Okay.
to like HB
Yeah.
410?
And that's a great question. That is something that the state reporting team has on their radar to add to this page. We didn't used to have the override. They did get that on here. They have it to work on to add showing the House bill for 10 minutes missed on here as well. It's not there yet. So there are some places you can look, and we are going to get into that coming up
Yeah,
here as we get to
cool.
the
I
student
can wait.
pages. No
Thank
problem.
you.
No, that's great. That's great. Um, so taking attendance, do you guys, is it making sense? This page was added, I don't know, 5, 6 years ago. It made things much easier, I felt like, to manage your attendance than the old way, which I'm going to get into here now. Any questions on these pages? Okay, let's talk about some student pages then. So if I go to a student, that's, what I was showing you before was the attendance management. That is for the building where you would click, on the attendance and be able to manage for the whole building. Now we're going to look at some individual student. I'm on an individual student and their attendance pages. So the attendance overview is what I'm on right now. This is how we used to take attendance before that other page was created. You would come in here. This shows since I'm on the entire school year, it's showing the entire school year by weeks on the daily attendance. That's what I'm on right now is daily attendance. It shows any time an attendance code was entered for a student. So you can see these are full day absences. Here was a partial because I see the clock. Okay, all the way through the whole school year. At the top, we have added the House Bill 410 totals for you to reference on this page. So I can see, the trigger is 38 hours for a month. It's 65 for a year, and this particular student has missed 59 hours and 11 minutes. Not quite at that trigger yet, but getting close. Nothing for consecutive excused, unexcused for a month, unexcused absences for the year. So looks like his must have been all excused because he had no unexcused. But this is our fake data, remember? So kind of tells you all of that information. Now, if I want to come to an individual day, I can click on either the clock or the day. Go ahead and click on the clock, just it gives me a little more info here. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to click on the actual clock. That's if I want to add another clock. Let's go back and I want to click on the time to see. So I want to click on the time to see what went on here. I open it up. There's my time. Here is what was calculated for that individual day. So the student was there from 7:25 to 1:38. That means he had 52 minutes of instructional time missed. Okay. You can, on this page, just like you could on the attendance page, you could adjust these hours if you need to. And let me show you this little button. This is a nice little explain. It shows the student's schedule. And it shows in blue for the time he was there, and then in red for the time he missed. This is a nice tool if you're not quite sure 52 minutes looks accurate. I can click explain. It's going to show me, oh, okay, he left at 1:38, which was during this partial of this class, and then he missed all of this class. So that adds up to 52. Those special circumstances, college, courses, JVSs, there may be some reasons that, 52 minutes isn't correct. And I can put an override in, and maybe he only missed 32 in my case, or oops, I forgot. It's 32 minutes of instructional time. Even though this calculated at 52, because I put an override in, it's going to pull that when it pulls for House Bill 410. Alrighty. If I come up here and I change it and I say, oh, you know what? He really left at 1:15, not 1:38. And I make that correction, and I submit it. You notice right away it changed that time. As soon as I put the new time in, I didn't even have to hit submit yet. I changed it from 1:32 to 1:15. It went from 52 to an hour and 15. It automatically adjusted that for me as soon as I made a change. If I come in here and open it up, the explain again, I can see instead of there, it says, oh, no, he left at 1:15. So now he missed all of that class and this class for an hour and 15 minutes. The auto calculation does a very nice job. I can change that again. Let's say it was actually at 10 o'clock a.m. It's going to go from 1:15. Let me close that up. To now 4 hours and 15 minutes of instructional time missed. If I click explain, it's going to show that I missed during this time.
Laura, we have a good question. If students have early dismissal, late arrival in their scheduled days, is there a way for the hours to automatically calculate so that they don't have to override every single student?
That's a very good question. And I was going to kind of try to find a student. This student didn't have a lunch. Let me find a student who has a lunch on their schedule. Lunch is considered non-instructional time. So we can mark that class as exclude from instructional time. I think it's my same student. Let me get a new student. Do I not have? Oh, all right. Let me go back. A visual is much better. Not sure why this is moving so slow for me today. Let me see. See if Audrey has a lunch. All of your students should be scheduled into a lunch. And lunch should be the exact, on the bell schedule, the exact time that that lunch is eating lunch. The students are eating lunch. So if you have 4 different lunches, you know, during a day, you should have 4 different periods for lunch on your bell schedule. Part of that auto calculation is it looks at that student and it says, oh, the student missed at 12 o'clock. That's during lunch. So I'm going to deduct that 25 minutes or 30 minutes, however much you've determined lunch to be, from instructional time missed. And I'm going to hope that these guys have a lunch on their schedule. Yep, here we go, lunch. Okay, so if I say the student missed at, left at 12 o'clock. They were there, they left at 12 o'clock today. Let me change this. You're going to see the time changed. I open explain. We must not have lunch marked to exclude. This should be white. Let me go fix that. Cameron Anderson. I'm going to go back and I'm going to show you how this is fixed. Go to my courses. So oops. Courses. Let me find my lunch course and I'm going to make sure that's marked. Well, I'm going to find my lunch for me. No, it's not, is it? All right. Let me go back into my district office and find lunch so I can fix that. Your lunches should be marked to exclude from instructional time so that it doesn't count that, you know, as time missed. Let's go to scheduling in, oh, no, I'm sorry, course programs. That was right. Courses. All right, so I am in select all, and let's try to find lunch now. There we go. And that was a 9th grade lunch for that student. At the bottom of the course page, there is, oops, exclude from instructional time. That should be checked for lunches. I'm referencing this back to that question as well. So those of you who have late arrival, early dismissal, you could create a fake course, mark it to exclude from instructional time. In that section, you could check that it meets first period, roll that student in that class. So I'm in a late arrival class that I said mark to exclude from instructional time. So when I miss, I know I'm not supposed to be there from 8:30 to 9. So because I have that marked as exclude, it won't count that time as time missed. just like it wouldn't as lunch. It will say, oh, he's not supposed to be here till 9, so it counts from 9 o'clock on as instructional time missed. So if those of you who do late arrivals, early dismissals, maybe an AM or PM kindergarteners, if you guys are not doing that and you're having to manually overwrite it all the time, please let us know and we can help you get that set up. Go back to the high school and get to my Cameron Anderson. And now that time should be non-instructional time. I'm guessing it's the 9th grader. Okay. Go back to, and we would change this to 12. Now you can see. So he was present all during this time, then he left. But because this is marked as exclude from instructional time, it ignores it. So it takes 25 minutes that he missed at this class, adds it to the hour and 19 that he missed at the end of the day for a total of an hour and 45 minutes. So lunches must be on a student schedule. They must be on the bell schedule with the exact time the student's eating lunch. And if both of those things are met, the auto calculation will not count that as instructional time missed. It'll ignore it. Same type of thing, late arrival, early dismissal. The student isn't supposed to be here first period, so they may have a fake course called late arrival that meets first period from 7:25 to 8:10. So if that student didn't get here till 9 o'clock, it's gonna see that as non-instructional time course because I check it on that course when I create it. He's in it first period, so I'm going to think in this instance when I do an auto calculation that he's not supposed to be here till after this class, then this time would be instructional time missed. Okay, we can kind of trick it to think, you know, that he's not supposed to be here during that time. So if he comes in late, I won't count that time as time missed. Same thing at the end of the day.
They're also asking, do the gaps in the courses count toward instructional time?
On that time right here,
Mhm.
we strongly suggest you do not have gaps in time. Reason being is the find me alert. If I were to hit, it's 8:11 and I hit find me for this student, according to this, he is nowhere. So you should really have no gaps between. Passing time does not need to be put in the bell schedule in PowerSchool, even though you do it on when your bells ring. In PowerSchool, you should have no gaps because of that reason. But it will only count the times that you have. So you really don't want a gap in your times. So this really should be 7:25 to 8:10. How we suggest you do it is this class ends at 8:10. I know this class technically doesn't start till 8:15, but I'm going to put 8:11. So that way, if I hit find me for this student at 8:11, I know he's left this class. He's on his way here. So by the time I get to that classroom to get the student, he's there. So we recommend when you're setting up your bell schedules in the class at the proper time, start the next class the minute after, and so on. The only caveat would be your lunches. You want your lunches to be the true amount of time they're in lunch. You don't want to pad those. Okay? Good questions. Let me go back to the attendance overview and highlight a few more things on this page. On this page, as well as the overall attendance, we talked about a clock. So I have a clock for this student. And so he came in late, 7:26, but he was staying till the end of the day. He comes down. We talked about this at 11 o'clock and says, I'm not feeling good, so you guys are going to send him home. I can fix that. So 11 o'clock, I can fix it here, or I can fix it back on that attendance page that we first looked at. Okay, so he now is leaving at 11 o'clock. I submit that. If you notice on this page, it was only the clock in and clock out where I was at. I need to now see how it says TU. To change the attendance code, I need to go to the day. And I can say it's no longer a tardy. Now he has a partial day absence, whichever it applies. And I can put an extra note in here. Okay. And then I also can see the explain from here as well. And then I'm going to go ahead and submit. On this page, the time in and time out are two different locations. The time in and time out and the code are in two different spots. To add a code, I have to click on the day. To add the clock, I click on the clock to add the time in and time out on this page. In this case, though, Johnny was here, came in tardy, left at 11 sick. He gets home and his mom says, oh, no, 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 you're not sick. You just want to be home. I'm taking you back to school. So he comes back at 11:30. Well, I've already used this clock. He was here from 7:26 to 11. Now he's coming back. So I need start a new clock. I come here, I can click on clock. I can do that on the other page as well, add a second clock. And now I'm going to say he came back now at 11:30. And then he was here till the end of the day. Okay. And I can say, mom sent back to school, whatever is appropriate for you. Okay. If I look at my explain, I can see, okay, he was here. That's when he went home because he said he was sick. And then mom brought him back. So he's now back at school. That's why it's only 31 minutes. I submit this. I can see, okay, remember these are present times. He was in school from 7:26 to 11, went home, came back at 11:30 and was here till the end of the day. But not so fast. About 1 o'clock, he comes back to the office and he's now has a fever. Mom wasn't right. He was sick. So I can come back in and change. You know what? He came back 11:30. I thought he was going to stay till 2:30, but now it's 1 o'clock. He's going home. I can click on this one the second time and change it to 1 o'clock. And I can say, went back home sick. Okay, my time here changed. So now I see he was here, he was gone for that half hour, came back, and then he went home again. It will recalculate every time I put more time in and time outs, no matter how many clocks. I submit. And I can see he was here, left, came back, and then left again. If I needed to, I could add another clock. It will let you add as many clocks as you need in a day to, account for those different situations. Okay, so maybe he came back at 1:15 for whatever reason, and then he stayed till the end of the day. I can add as many clocks as I want, but once again, explain, it's going to show, oh, see, he was gone that little bit of time and came back. I can add as many clocks as I need to show that time in and time out. I still can only use one attendance code. So now I have to look at this and say, okay, is partially unexcused still acceptable? Do I need to change that code? And then determine which code I need to change. This always looks funny, but we have people that have that. I came late, then I left for a doctor's appointment, then I came back, then I went home sick. You always have those in and outs, in and outs. You're able to do that. Just one code you have to determine for the day. I can change multiple days here as well, like we did before, but this would be for this individual student. I'm on an individual student's page. So maybe I know Cameron is going to be going on a family vacation. I could come to Cameron's overview page. I could come in here and I could say, all right, he from May 1st until May 9th. Oops, not August 9th. Let's do till May 3rd. He left and went on a vacation. So I want to look at all codes. I'm going to change this to an absent, unexcused. He went on vacation, and I can put a note in here. Okay, in my building, that's an unexcused absence. And I'm going to call it family vacation and submit. And then I can see down here from May 5th, 1st through the 3rd, absent unexcused. And if I click on one of them, I'll see family vacation. So that's nice too, that if you know a student's going to be out for a while, those out of school suspensions, I can go to Johnny's attendance overview page and I can say he has an out of school suspension for this week and do, multiple days in a row. Family vacation. Once again, just be careful that you're putting in the right dates so you don't wipe out things. Okay, so there was his multiple days. That was change multiple days. This is daily. I can also, just like on the other, I can see meeting. If I want to see what was going on for meeting attendance for this student, I can do meeting. If it's a little bit different because it shows the week up here, and instead of clicking on an individual day, I would click on the week. And then here are the courses that I'm in that week. So if I want to, it's up to you how you do things. If if you just strictly leave this up to the teachers, but if you're a building that they want you to mark the meeting as well, um, don't really need to, but some schools want that. I could come here and I could say, all right, the student was absent unexcused today. Maybe it was only just a couple periods. I could choose those 2 periods, then he came back. Or if it's out the whole day, I can click select all and it will mark it for the whole day. Maybe I made a mistake and I want to change it back to present because he did come back at the end of the day, and I can override those back to present. That's your meeting attendance. Once again, meeting does not pull for anything House Bill 410 related. It's kind of just a record keeping for the teachers. Questions on this attendance overview page?
Laura, looking back just a little bit, Nick
Mhm.
says, I believe our schedules are set up where the end time for the previous course is the same time as the start of the next course. Course 1 is 8 to 9:30. Course 2 is 9:30 to 10. Does this cause problems?
Um, we have several schools that do that. I've not really noticed problems. I think you'd be okay. We typically recommend that you do that 1 minute just so, it doesn't see it as an overlapping, but I honestly have not seen the issues with that. That's a good question. Alrighty, so there was something else I was coming back here to show you. Oh, it
Hey,
was
Laura, so there's one other question. Is
sure.
hours per month calendar month or rolling 30 days?
I'm not an EMIS person, and that always confuses me. I feel like it's a rolling 30 days, but please don't. Who is there an EMIS coordinator on here that could answer that for the monthly? I don't think it's a calendar month, but I honestly don't have a great answer for you, a definite answer.
No, no problem. We'll put a ticket in. Thanks.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Um, on meeting attendance, I forgot to show you this. So these are the classes that the students currently enrolled in. I'm sorry. So if a student would change a class, you can click on show dropped classes all also, and it will show those classes. So maybe I was in, for the first month of school, I was in a class and then I switched to another class. It won't default to show that old class, but I can by clicking show dropped courses also, and then it will show any class I was enrolled in. So just a quick little note on that. Okay. Let's talk attendance and daily attendance info. Daily attendance info on an individual student, I'm at again, attendance, daily attendance info. This is a very nice little summary for you. Schools love this. I'm sending out that letter, that truancy letter, they've met that trigger. I can attach this as well. It's a nice little report, shows their hours at the top, where they are, but then it actually breaks it down then by the different attendance codes by day. Time in, it shows the time in, time out. It shows your comments. Um, and then the individual hours for an individual student for that particular day. And then what their total time is. If I scroll on down, it breaks it out by codes. So I can see absent excused, he's had 3 of them. Presence 1. No, these are those code categories that the school made some extra ones. But it will sort those out and then how many hours by each individual code. House Bill 410 attendance hours, another little review for the kind of the big trigger items, gives you those information. This is the daily attendance summary just for the week, and then over here's your years. Remember, this isn't House Bill 410. This is kind of what you see on quick lookup as well. So this student has missed 11 days in the year for 23-24. Hasn't had any charties. If I click on it, I can see what those are. Well, yeah, here's what they are, the days that they've missed. It also showed that right above, but also gives that information there. It's kind of just really a screenshot of what is on the daily attendance info. I have a legend down here, so it tells you what each of the codes mean. And then code and description. So if it's a highlighted in green up here, that means that was a present code. So you're not going to see any time missed. It'll list it. It'll say, that school approved code that they used because he was at football camp. Oh, you know what? It's not because we're in last year, it won't show it. That would be green normally because it's a present code. Okay, just a quick highlight for you. Anything that's in maroon indicates it's a medical code. Okay, so another quick identifier, you can see which ones are the medical, which ones are the present. And then there's also orange. So if you see something in orange up here, that's a future attendance date. Maybe you remember I said that, Johnny was going on a family vacation and it's next week. I went ahead and put it in there because I had time and I knew he was going to be gone next week. So I went ahead and put it in. It's going to show up on this list, but it's going to be orange because it hasn't happened yet. And the other thing is the hours will not start calculating into these totals until the day actually gets here. But because it's there, it's going to show it in orange, but it just won't deduct the time or add the time, I guess, to these totals yet until that day gets here. Okay, nice little report. Gives you a lot of information. And truancies, this is not really used a lot by our schools. It's pretty much just a in and out. We don't use it to pull anything. If you want, we can track that in other ways because of our House Bill 410, but it is a way that you could enter some information if you wanted to. Once again, I really honestly don't know of any district that does use it. This though, Truancy Chronic Ohio, this is an important page. Nope, did I not? There we go. It's very similar to the daily attendance info. This is the one that the state created. Shows you your hours up here, how much they have, their triggers. This little truancy excessive absence FT record and non-reportable districts. If I open this up and it tells me a little more information. So this is for students who I'm trying to think how to explain it. Maybe you have a transferred in student, okay? They weren't with you at the beginning of the year. They've come to you second semester, moved into your district. You need to put this information in. Oh, I'm on the wrong one. This is the truancy. I'm sorry. Back up, back up. This is the FT record. This is if they meet a trigger. Okay, 65 hours total absences per year. This student let's say I just put in a bunch of attendance. He's now at 70. I have to take action. Okay, you have a week to take action. He's met the trigger. We need to do something. This is where I can report that. If I click new, EMIS is reporting that, his attendance. So ODE is getting something saying, oh, he's at 75 hours. That's over the limit. So you need to be taking action, and this is where you can report, and it gets pulled to EMIS to show what you did. The FT record is what it's called in EMIS world. So I can say, all right, he met the trigger. So we met and as a group on May 6th. We have two areas here. This is the EMIS reportable event. What action did we take? Well, we notified the parent of the excessive absences. And if I want to put an additional note in there, I can. And I hit submit. Okay, so that's going to show now on that student's truancy, and it's going to pull to EMIS to show, yes, the student met the trigger. We had a meeting on May 6th, and we notified the parent. So we did our due diligence, okay? Some schools have asked that they wanted to be able to track not only to EMIS that we did something, but we like to be proactive. So when a student is getting close in hours, we like to do something, and we wanted to have a place to track that and say, oh yeah, we knew. So on April 15th, you have a non-reportable EMIS area. I can say we called the parent and discussed attendance hours. Okay. This doesn't get pulled because it's under the action taken non-EMIS reportable. It's my district being proactive, and I wanted to be able to keep track that, yes, on April 14th, I told the parent we had I called them and told them about the attendance hours. Okay, and I can submit that. I have my personal record that we called and talked to the parents, but it didn't matter because then on May 6th, They met the hours and went over, and we had to take action. Okay. That's the difference between these two. Some schools don't use this piece of it. That's totally up to you. They're only, worried about entering in the actual reportable, EMIS reportable events.
Hey,
This was,
Laura, I have a question.
sure.
Um, can you do both of them on the same entry? Can you have a non-EMIS and an EMIS reportable event on the same one?
I don't believe so, because as soon as I choose, you can only choose one of these. I don't believe, well, I've never had
Yeah,
that.
it lets you. I just wanted to make sure
Well,
because I
let's
have
see
seen
what it
some of us
does.
do that.
It didn't, I guess it did put it in both places.
Mhm.
I have never tried that before. That's a interesting concept. It appears that you can put it in
Okay.
both places. Yes.
All right, thanks.
Uh-huh. Because this is what's going to pull, not what you have over here.
That's what I wanted to make sure that those that are
Mm-hmm.
EMIS reportable are at least going in, no matter what else they.
Yeah. Yep.
Thank you.
Sure. Alrighty. And you know as well as I do, you have those students that you're going to have multiple reportable and maybe non-reportable if you use them entries here, and that's okay. It's going to always pull, I believe, the most recent one. Alrighty, student absences. This section is where I was started to tell you. This is where I have a move-in student. Okay, they were going to the neighboring district the first half of the year. Now they've came to my school. I have to enter in the hours that they missed from that other school. So I can't change schools and get a get out of jail free card. I still have to, those truant hours come with me. If I go to this student, they're the one that came in, I can click add other attendance. In this case, this is a move-in student, so they're the transferred student. I click this. The good thing is here, I don't have to put in all the individual days. On that record request from that other school, I'm going to say how many total excused hours did the student have, how many unexcused, how many excluded from truancy, and how many were excluded from chronic absenteeism. And then I just have to enter in that total amount. So maybe they had 10 hours here and unexcused, they had 35, and whatever it may be, whatever they give you. We're just going to throw some numbers in there. You put the district IRN where the student was. You can click right over here to find that one. So maybe it was Columbus City. Oop, what did I do? Okay, Columbus City School District is where they came from. It will automatically fill that in for you then once I find that school. And then, of course, the fiscal year. And I submit. And then if I notice down here, it adds those in there for me and then adds it to the totals. Okay, that's for your transferred in students. You also have students where you share your JVS Career Center students. You maybe have shared attendance. Um, you know, it's a partial day type of a situation. You can do a shared. Unfortunately for this one, it is actually you enter in the actual day that they missed, just as if it was your student, May 6th. It was an excused absence. They missed 2 hours, and should it be excluded from truancy absenteeism or chronic absenteeism? Remember, this was your out of school suspensions. These were your medical type of thing. What school district? And I'll let's see. Rivers, is it going to come up for me? This just doesn't seem to be acting right for me today. There we go. Tri-River School, and I can submit. I'm sharing this student with Tri-Rivers. I have to report maybe any time that with that shared student. Good thing with these career centers, they have created a way for you to export that information from one place, give it to the other place, and import it in. So it's not something that you have to manually enter every day. I know we met when this first came into effect. I went with the EMIS group, and they met at one of the career centers with the in Franklin County there with several of the schools, and they decided that every Monday the JVS Career Center was going to pull the attendance for that building and send it to them, and then they could import it in and keep it up to date once a week. So, but it's also supposed to be entered in here too, so it can be calculated in your hours if you're doing a shared reporting. Some schools, the Career Center just reports it, or you report it. Those are agreements that you will make. Staff notes. Staff notes can be, whatever information you might want to keep track of on this page as well. This doesn't go anywhere. It's your information. All righty. That is our truancy chronic absenteeism detail page. Okay, questions on this page? Be sure you're entering those FT entries though when you need to, because they know that the students have met the trigger. They want to see that you have taken action, and this is how that gets reported to them. I don't know.
Denise, did you get clarification on your attendance question? I believe Laura covered that, but I just want to make sure. Oh, maybe she's not there.
All righty.
I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here. I'm not 100%. So they don't send this other school where the student attends 100%, does not send us like a weekly or a monthly or anything. So we just at the end of the year put in our final year, everything.
Okay.
Can that work that way?
You can. Typically we recommend that you probably enter it as you go, because it's getting pulled and reported,
Yeah.
as you go. I mean,
Okay.
every time they submit, it pulls this in, attendance information to be submitted.
Oh, maybe I can work with
but
them this year.
But if it's a shared student, you may have an agreement with that student that that place is the one that actually is reporting attendance for that student instead of your district. I can't always answer that question on how, the arrangements that
No
have been
worries.
made. Yeah. So you may not have to enter it.
Okay, thank you very much. I
Sure.
will double check with them and we'll make sure we get it maybe in a better situation this year.
Yeah. Yeah. But,
Thank
be
you.
sure of how you should be doing that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep. Sure. Okay, so my thought is let's take about a 5-minute break, get you guys something else to drink, use the restroom, whatever it may be. We'll start back up about 10:15, or excuse me, 11:15. All righty? Okay. So we're going to start talking a little bit about attendance for groups of students. And I want to talk with you. First of all, let me get back to my start page. And searching for attendance, ways that we can do some searching. So get back. We can search for students by attendance and how many days certain students have missed. This, the way I'm going to show you right now is going to be searching for PowerSchool attendance. And if you remember correctly, when we first started that attendance conversion, half days, full days, this first search I'm going to show you is actually searching on core PowerSchool attendance. and finding students who have missed so many days. So it's called Search by Grades and Attendance. So on the start page, if you go to People and under Students, we're going to find Search by Grades, or excuse me, by Attendance and Grades. On this page, you can do just what it says. You can search by attendance and or grades. So in this case, I'm going to search for all students in this building and the minimum number of classes needed to meet the search criteria. So maybe I want to find any student who has missed 3 or more days. I can put in 3. Now, do I want to scan multiple grade and attendance? Do I want to do both? In my case, what we're talking about is just the attendance. So I'm going to say, let's look at the filtered, and I don't want final grades. I don't want the final grade percentage. I don't want citizenship grades. I'm strictly looking for attendance. And I want to see any daily attendance. You can choose meeting, but we work, with daily. And I can say for this attendance code, or I can say all absent codes. I'm not worried about if they had it, was tardy. I'm not worried about if they was on a school field trip type of thing. I just want to find out anybody who was absent. And I want to say, oh, greater than 3 days. Anybody who's missed more than 3 days. When scanning attendance, I want to scan all attendance records, or if I'm doing it just for maybe a month, I could put a date range in there. In my case, I want to see all attendance records, any student who's missed more than 3 days. Since I'm not doing grades, I don't worry about this information. And I can scan for all classes enrolled if I was doing something with grades. And then the results. I want to make this the current selection of students. If I was searching for grades, I probably would want to display matching students with their sections. But I'm only looking at attendance right now. So I'm going to go ahead and submit. Takes it a minute. So I'm looking through 1,721 students attendance for the year, trying to find those ones who've missed more than 3 days. Okay, and I had 1,426 students who missed more than 3 days. If I go to one student, let me show you just what it looks like. And I can see this student has missed more than 3 days. I could do the daily attendance info and see that they've missed more than 3 days as well. And then I could go through and I could see as I search through here, these students all have missed more than 3 days. Maybe, I have a higher amount that I'm searching for as well. But once I get this group of students, I want to show you another feature. Maybe I want to print out that daily attendance info for this group of students. I can come to my group actions and I can mass print a student screen. I don't know if you guys know about this feature. This is nice. I can choose a selection of students. I have many student screens listed here, and I can choose one of them that I might want to print. And where is did I get to my daily? There's my daily attendance info. That's the page. I'm sending letters to these, parents. I want to print this out for each of these students, and I want to attach that, send that with the letter. I can also make a custom header if I like. I'm going to go ahead and submit it. I probably should have chosen a smaller selection after I hit that because this might take a while. What this will do then is it will actually make a page, with a page break for each of these students. So I can print this particular page out. There we go. It didn't take as long as I thought it might. I can go to an individual student and pull them up. Eventually here, it's going to get the page itself. There we go. So as you can see, here's the first student's page, and I can go, and there's the second student's page. I could print all of these out and then have them to attach to those letters. I wanted to be sure I was showing you that as well. This is where it's going to take a while. It's going to let me out of there. Well, we'll just get off of that page. So something I might want to do once I find that group of students. So that's scanning for attendance. We have some that like to use the meeting piece of that because maybe I have a situation where if they miss 10 classes, they have a punishment. They have a Saturday school or a Thursday school or something like that that they have to come to. Alrighty, we already talked about on my agenda here, searching and updating attendance by teacher schedules or by an activity. One other thing I want to talk about is a perfect attendance. You also can search for perfect attendance. So that is, let me find my notes here. I don't know if you have it up, Kim. My breadcrumb. All right, we're going to do the search here. Search for by perfect attendance. All else fails. If I don't know the exact location, I can type it in up there. So
That's what I just did, Laura. I
search
couldn't remember where
yeah.
it was.
Search for perfect attendance. So your attendance mode to use, most times it's daily. I want to look at daily attendance. Students to scan. I could scan my selection or maybe all students. I'm going to keep with a little bit lower number. Date range to scan. Maybe I'm running this just for the first 9 weeks. I could put in that date range. Or maybe it's for the semester. I could put in that date range. Disregard these codes when searching. So maybe I want to put in my present codes because I don't want, that school functions to be included. I think that was an SA code. Maybe I don't want to include tardies. That's totally up to you. What codes don't I want to include? Actually, that was an AP, not school activity. They called it an AP code. Absent present. All right, so whatever codes I want to exclude in that search, I submit. And then it's going to scroll through, find any student who has no codes in there, no absent codes, except for the ones I excluded. And it's going to give me that list. I have 7 students who had perfect attendance for that date range that I put in there. And then, I can take this selection, print out my certificates, whatever I may be doing to honor them. So perfect attendance, you can pull that as well. House Bill 410, we talked about the individual students' FT records and being sure that I'm entering those events when I come across, when a student meets a trigger. That's fine and dandy on an individual student, but nobody wants to scroll through all the students and check these hours. They do have a very nice report that can be ran. Let's go back. And I'm going to choose a smaller group. So I'm only going to choose my seniors. You can choose all students if you want to run it by all students or a selection of students. So in my case, I'm going to start out just with my seniors. All right, and under our group actions, all the way down here at the bottom, we have a truancy and chronic absenteeism summary. This will be your friend. Those of you who need to run this however often, probably at least weekly, because you have a week to take action when students meet that information. So some run it, bigger schools run it daily. More staff, they do that. Others, it may be a weekly process. But we're going to come in here and we're going to run it. We'll talk a little bit about this report. So you have 3 categories up here. You have your not at risk. Students aren't even close. You have your little caution triangle there. Those are students who are at risk. They reach or have exceeded the thresholds. And then your flag, I'm sorry, this is for this threshold that we're going to set here. I'll tell you about that. That's kind of your warnings, I guess. Your red flags means they may require notification. They've met or exceeded the House Bill 410 maximum hours. Okay, so those are kind of the 3 triggers you're going to see as we run this report. You can put in a date range. I believe it kind of defaults from July 1st to the current date type of a thing, but you can, set that to whatever range you want to look. Total hours excused, unexcused per month considered at risk. So here's my at risk. That's my caution. They're getting close. You can set this to whatever you like. They default it to halfway. The trigger state trigger for House Bill 410 is 38. It automatically sets it at 19, but maybe I don't want to know that early. I want to wait till they get to maybe 25 hours. And the same with all of these. The trigger is 65, but this at risk, I don't want to know that soon, at halfway. I don't want to know till they get to 50. You determine what you want them. The default is halfway. The rest of these, I'm going to leave it halfway. If this is what I want it to be all the time, I can save that. So now every time I come in, it's going to, instead of halfway, it's going to be set at what I set it at. All right. Then once I have that, I can come apply it, and it's going to run a report based on the triggers, what I set for the at risk, and then anyone who doesn't meet either of those will be marked as not at risk. If I come on down now that it's finished running, here's all the students that were in my selection, and here's where those identifiers are. This student is not at risk in either of these areas. This student is. They actually they're over the trigger. The red mark means they've passed the House Bill 410 triggers. And then here is my students who have met that warning that I set up here, okay, for these hours. This I think is a really powerful tool. I'm just going to kind of go across here. As you can see, we have the student in blue. If I click on his name, it's going to open up his FT records for me. It usually opens that up bigger. Maybe it's because of the way I have my screen set up. But I can see this is actually that Ohio truancy page. So I can actually come here and I can kind of look and I can see, oh yeah, here's the times he missed. You might run across an error that you want to go back and fix. So maybe I find something on here that I think is wrong. I can come up here and first of all, I can click on his name again and close that page. I can come over here and I can click on this little arrow. It's really a faint arrow. If I click on that, it's going to open in another tab that student's state pages. And I can go then to his FT page, or excuse me, the Ohio Chronic Absenteeism page, and I can make any changes. If I need to add some things, maybe, oh, he did meet a trigger. I need to add that trigger to this student's page. I can do that, or excuse me, the action I need to take, I can add that. So that takes you to that student's page in another tab. So then I can go back to that report and work on the next student. Okay, so that's what those 2 pages do, or 2 things do. I also have an expand up here. So it breaks it down into a smaller, column, total absence status. But if I click expand, it opens it up and breaks it out then. There's your total absence status, but here's your total absence for the month, total absences for the year. Okay, so I can see what those are. I can see this student has the red flag. He didn't meet it for the month, but look how many hours he is for the year. Okay, so that's expanding that section. I can collapse it back just by clicking that, and then let's expand the unexcused. Same type of thing. A little more area, columns in the unexcused. So I have my status there, but here's my consecutive unexcused absence hours, my unexcused absence for the month, and then my unexcused absence hours for the year. So I can see the student is over in the unexcused absences for the year. And then I can collapse it back. They also have a column that will show you if I've entered an FT record. Remember, that's, I need to take action. I'm a little concerned because this student, has met the triggers and we haven't done an action yet for this student. So I know I need to go in and enter an action. We need to have a meeting with the student. However, we're going to contact the parents, and then I need to enter that. And then on that truancy, chronic absence of the I'm having a hard time talking now. Absenteeism and truancy page, there was that spot for notes. It would show the notes there here as well. Okay, so this kind of gives you that big overview. What I really like about it is the filters. I can sort, I forgot to tell you, by any of these columns as well. So my filter, I don't necessarily, right now, I'm not worried about anybody who isn't at risk. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to say, right now I want to work on my total absence status. So I'm going to choose total absence status. And I don't worry about those that aren't at risk. Maybe right now I really just want to find the ones who require notification. I can choose just that group and apply it. And there's all of my students who have the little red flag in the total absence status of may require notification. I could add another. Now I want to find anybody in this column who has had no action taken. If they've already had action, I'm not so worried about them right now. I want to find those who haven't had any action taken, because those are the ones who have met the trigger and I haven't recorded anything yet. All right, so these are nice. Maybe I don't want to do it by status. Maybe I truly want to see total absence hours that are greater than 65. Let me get rid of that one and apply it. And I can just find the students who meet that. My total absence hours for the year are greater than 65. It's these students. So this filter is really powerful for you to help narrow things down, find out who I need to work with, find out those who have met, the certain areas. And then once I enter in a House Bill 410, so let's say I know Daniel, we had his meeting, and I'm going to go ahead and enter in this new, oops, it's jumping on me. I'm going to enter in his FT event. So on May 1st, we met and we did an action that's reportable. We notified the parent, and I'm even going to show you the note will show up. And I submit. Now if I go back to my report, Daniel, there he is. So if I apply this again, come on. Oh, I gotta close this. Well, It should show my action on here now. Did I not hit submit? It's on there. This is where working in my test database isn't always the most accurate because we're out of the year. And I think that's the problem. Oops. Well, it will show the date and the A. It'll say like A and the date that you met for that student, and then the notes that you entered. Any questions on this page so far? If I narrow this down to, you know, my students that I need to contact, I can always come down here and set that as my current selection. Those are the students that I need to work with. Okay, they're my selection here. I can go in and work on, you know, individual students' truancy information, enter those FTs. Maybe I want to print out that daily attendance info page because I'm going to send that out with them. Or I believe you can also just send out the chronic absenteeism state. There, nope. Maybe I can't. I thought they were adding that. But I would probably do the daily type of attendance. I also go back to the start page and go back to that report. To the bottom, I can run that summary again. If you notice, I had set these to a different trigger than the halfway part mark. So that, and I told it to save that. So it did save that to my new values. So I can run this again. If I narrow this down to a selection, I can also set it as my current selection I can work with on the live side, or I can come down here and download this. And then it will let you, I believe it's in my downloads. Nope. There we go. I didn't go down far enough. I can download it as a comma separated, an Excel spreadsheet, you know, PDF. I choose Excel, then I download it, and it will open this up in an Excel document. You know, sometimes it's nice to be able to, maybe I'm the one just gathers the information and then I hand it off to someone else who actually then will take care of, you know, setting up the appointments with the parents and things. Any questions on the summary? Okay. Attendance reports. So if I go back over to my attendance from the start page in my building, I might go to attendance. We have a list of reports here. Okay, we discussed all of this earlier, but down here are some different reports. Absentee report. Okay, this is kind of an old school report, I think of it as. I'm going to say daily. And let's just run it for my 127 students so it doesn't take as long. Or I could have chosen a grade level. What attendance codes do I want to look for? I can choose a single code or I can choose multiple. Okay, I want to search for any students with these codes. Date to scan. Go back to my April 1st. Periods, if I want to do individual periods, specific date and time that I want to look at, data to be filled in. Do I want to include the student number? Number of blank lines below a student. I'm going to go ahead and put this in here just so you can see what it looks like. I'm going to say 3. And include a verification line. I'm going to say yes, just so you can see it. And I'm going to submit. Goes to your report queue. If I click view, and this is why I kind of say it's an old school report. This was kind of one of the originals. It's going to give you a list of these students. And this is that verification. Talk to. So this would be if you are calling these parents for whatever reason, you know, why isn't Johnny or Logan at school today? You can put little notes in here. Talk to Sue, it's the mom, what reason she gave you, the date that you called and talked with her, and then if you need an employee there. Here are those blank lines. That's those, I said 3. So it gave me a little space in between that if I wanted to add additional notes. This is what this report does. It just shows each student, and you know, it's a way for you if you're making contact with a group of students to jot notes. That's the absentee report. Alrighty, let's go back to attendance. Attendance count. This is a multi-period by period attendance. You can do it or daily. I can say I'm going to do daily just for my group of students. And what codes do I want to look at? Maybe I'm just going to say all codes. What date range? I'm going to run it for the whole year since I don't have many students. And if I'm running meeting, what periods do I want to see? Do I want to include drop classes? What's the minimum number of occurrences? I only want students who have at least 10. Do I want to itemize it by day? I'm going to say yeah. I'm going to say go ahead and include the student number. Do I want any number of lines below these students? I'm just going to say 1 and submit. It's running it right now. Well, maybe I should have chosen fewer students or fewer codes. I forget my selection of students were my students who have missed quite a bit. Alrighty. Well, while that's running, let me see if I can go ahead to the next. All right. So attendance, while that's running, we'll go ahead and look at the next. Oh, is it going to be frozen for me? Alrighty. So that's attendance count, that consecutive absences report if you're using. I can't run it in this, unfortunately, because it's the summer. Teacher attendance submission, that's the report where it has the different teachers with the different colors showing if they've submitted attendance for the day. And then a PowerSchool SIS teacher portal attendance. This will show you, oh, it's kind of the same. You know, you can see display co-teachers, periods, leave blank for all. I'm only going to run it for a couple just so we can see. Let me run it back for today, or that April 1st date that we've been using. Starting page number 1, processing options, you know, if you want to run it later or a specific time. And let me submit. and the one I just ran, the portal attendance, it will show kind of like the yellow, red, green, but maybe I want to run this instead just to find the students who have, or the teachers who have not taken attendance for that particular period. Sometimes that's, you know, a little easier because maybe I got a late start to check in my report and I don't care about second period. I only want to find out who didn't take their first period attendance. So maybe I run this report instead to see just first period. All right, so report Q, let's look at this attendance count report that we were running. And it's just that. It shows the student, their student number. I told them to, you know, show that. And then it just shows how many A codes they had and then a total. How many absent codes. Any of these, actually. Just a old school count report. You'll kind of notice that those are, all of these are kind of an old school reports. We have some more up-to-date ones. So if I go into data and reporting and I go to reports and system reports, once again, these are system reports, so they're using the core PowerSchool attendance information, not anything to do with House Bill 410, but there are some reports here that you may be interested in. A couple of them I want to point out. Please try them. It gives you a brief description. It's not hurting you to try these to find something that may work for you. But a couple I want to point out is the clock in and clock out report. It will run for, you know, your selection or all students, beginning and ending of the report. So I probably want to change this to that a group, you know, selection of time. Maybe I just want to run it for the March, month of March. Do you want to include both clock in and clock out? You can choose one or the other or both. Do you want to separate the clock in and clock out, or do you want it all in one line? Attendance mode, most times daily. You'll see sometimes this use defaults. It doesn't always work well. We suggest that you actually choose which one you want. And then how do you want to group it? So I'm going to say by grade level. And it's running right now. So it's a nice report. It just gives you each of the students that you had in your list and any clock in and clock out times that they had for that in that date range. It's a helpful report at times, but even more so, I think a report you'll want to see reports under system reports again. This is the one that I reference quite a bit as the attendance change history report. We always want to know who changed that student's attendance on this particular date. This is a nice report. If I remember correctly, I'm thinking that these won't run in our train database, but I want to show this to you anyways. Attendance change history report. Well, gonna give me there we go. Okay. When you run this report, you can run it for your selection of students or all students. You can say, I want what report period. So maybe I'm going to run it for one day at April 1st, and I only want it for that one day. So I'm going to say run it from April 1st to April 1st. I want all the daily. Do you want to, you know, use those exclude? We typically don't do that because we don't have codes marked to exclude. Sort option. How do you want to do it? I'm going to do it by student and date. If you want, you could do it by a grade level or just a particular teacher. What happened in, Daniel's class or Danielle's class? Start us, you can do run it for a certain period if you're doing meeting. Select change from attendance code. So I want to find everything that was originally an A and it was changed to something else. Or I'm going to leave it blank for all. Select the change to. So I don't care what it was, but I want to see anything that was changed to a tardy, whatever you may want to be, or blank for all. This even lets you look by an IP address because there was something weird that happened and I know it was this IP address. I can even pull it, that for security purposes by an IP address. Select who modified. Okay, I want to see, I know that, Kim, she was in there working on things. Maybe I want to see what she changed. Or I just want to see it for all. When the modify took place. So I'm running it for this date, but it maybe not was modified on that date. Maybe it was modified in May. So I might want to run it from, you may know when it was changed, but you may not. So I just want to run it from anything that changed from that day to today. And you can even put it down to the time if you knew what time it was changed. And we've had to do this. Some people wanted to know something was changed. I know one thing when we talked earlier about that mass changing attendance and someone accidentally changed all of the attendance for all students for the whole school year. We were able to come in here, look up that person who did it by accident and find anything that they changed for the whole school year so that they could go in and fix it. Say, but in this case, I just want to know what happened. I run this. It gives me a nice report that shows the student, what the original code was, and who entered that original code. It shows, then it has a column of what the code was changed to, and who made that change, and the actual time of day that it was changed. It's a very helpful report to be able to come back to see if you need to fix some things or if you think some things were happening maybe that shouldn't have. Unfortunately, this is not going to let me show it to you, but I would suggest you go in and just try it sometime. You'll find out it's a very helpful report to be able to see what's going on. It'll show you like the teacher, Mr. Smith put in an A, and then I could see that Kim went in and changed it to an unexcused absence, at this time, which, that would probably be the case. The teacher entered it as an A, and then Kim went in and corrected it because, she didn't get a note to an unexcused absence. Gives you that history. It's a great report. We also have some reports under data and reporting. The PCSB. Some of you have the purchased ones, which are PSCB Dev reports. But this has some nice custom, this is a PSCB custom reports is not something we've created, and it's not part of core PowerSchool. It's a group of developers have kind of combined all of their different reports and are sharing them with us. So if I come in here to the PSCB custom reports, there's attendance reports here. Please go in and look at these. I can't go through all of these and tell you what all they do, but please try them. Did I have a question? Nope. Okay. They break it down into categories. So you have anything to do with daily attendance, which would be, for all kids. You can break it down by an individual school and some maybe different reports that you might want to know. A daily percent is kind of a one that people like. This is a summary by date code. And then you can also run reports and it gives you student information. It breaks it down by individual students. Gives you a brief description. Once again, please try these. You may find the best thing out there that your school has been looking for in these reports. And one other report I want to show you that everyone should be running at least once a month If not, and at the beginning of the school year, run it like every week until you get some things going. And that is our ADA ADM by student report. So that is under data and reporting, reports, system reports, and it is down here towards the bottom. ADA ADM by student. This will help you find issues with your attendance. When you come to this report, this is one of them that use defaults will not work properly for you. So we suggest you change it to your daily. Attendance conversion should automatically go to code today for you. That'll be okay. I'm going to run it just for my little group of students so that it won't take very long, but you might want to run it by grade level. You have that option. Beginning and ending date, I want to run this from actually, oh, that is the first day of school, sorry, 8/16 to, so it's running it defaults to the full year. I can say go ahead and run it now, or I could, run it later. Check this box to include the absent column. Once you check it, come over here and say set all, and then that way it'll save it the next time you come in, and I'll submit. Alrighty, put a minute here to run. This is a really important, I can't stress how much this is important to run periodically. Things get caught on this are if maybe when a student got enrolled, the FTE didn't get attached to the student. If there's no FTE attached to the student, it's going to show 0 attendance for this student, and then you're getting no credit for that student. You're not going to get any funding for that student because it's not pulling for EMIS reporting that that student is in attendance. Show you the report now. All right, so here's what it does. Here's all the students that were in my selection and the current grade level. It shows you their building number. I was in the particular building, so it's all going to be the same there. Gives you the abbreviation. Here's the entry date. This is when the student began classes with you, began attending your school. So as I scroll down here, I can see that Aubrey, she didn't come to us until December. And then you can see their exit dates. So if any students left, this student, Audrey Harrison, was with me from 8/16, but she left us September 5th. So that's nice, entry and exit dates. Let's say a student was with you part of the year, left, and then came back. They're going to have 2 lines with each date range. Hey, so your membership value, that's the number of days they were enrolled with you. So 174. If I come down here to these 2 students, remember she didn't come till December, so she was only with me 105 days. And this student was only there from the beginning of the school year to September, so 13 days. So you can kind of check membership. If you see some things off, if the membership isn't adding up right, it could be something wrong with your calendar. You don't have a day marked as in session. Some things like that. So these are the things to check with this report. Attendance. This is how many days they were in attendance. Okay. Here's your absent column. So your attendance and your absences should add up to your membership value. If it does not, there's a problem. If you see quite a few kids maybe that aren't adding up properly, it could be that one of your attendance codes doesn't have a conversion on it. So maybe my partial day medical, no one went in and put in a conversion. So it just ignores that code. So, maybe I had 5 days with that code on it, but it's not counting it because I didn't have a conversion. So this will identify some issues. Those 2 should add up to your membership days. Off-track days. Remember, tracks are used in my seniors. They might be on track B. Track A is for all my underclassmen because they should be there every day that we're in session. But maybe my seniors, they don't come those last 3 days. So I've got them on track B. And then on the calendar, I've unchecked track B for those last 3 days because they're not supposed to be there. So that makes it would show maybe those seniors then have a 3 for off track days. And that would mean my membership days might be 173 or 171 because I had 3 off track days. Days not enrolled, there's a problem here because my calendar must be, I must have 2 days marked maybe before or after that we aren't, before or after these dates, because it's saying there's 2 days in your calendar that these kids aren't enrolled. Well, that shouldn't be accurate because it should be the first day and last day. So something else I may need to check. I come down to this student and I can see they started and left later, so they do have 58 days they weren't there. That makes sense. This just identifies some things. I talked about the FTE. What you would see is maybe if Daniel didn't have an FTE on his it's enrollment history now, it's not transfer info. If he didn't have an FTE marked for this year, it would show 0 membership days. And he would not be getting pulled for EMIS reporting as attending your school. So be sure you check these. You want to be sure this is accurate. If these aren't accurate, you're not reporting time correctly for your students and maybe not getting your full funding. If you see some issues and you're not sure what to look for, talk with your district leader. If they don't know, we can get a case in with us and we'll take a look. Okay, that's your ADA, ADM by student report. Alrighty, so what I have on the last thing on our agenda is just kind of running through some of these scenarios. And I kind of want you guys to think about, we talked early on about taking attendance and how we would go about taking attendance in these situations. So this is going to be kind of some, come on. What did I just do? I think I totally knocked myself out. There we go. This is going to be some group participation. So I'm going to kind of read a scenario and I want you to think about how you would take attendance in this case. So attendance has been taken. And we want to find all the students with a particular absent code and make sure that the correct code is placed on each of those students. So if I remember correctly, I'll kind of walk through the first one here. We're in the building. Teachers have all taken attendance. I'm going to go to attendance and my daily attendance. This will default normally to today's day, but because we're in a summer train database, I'm going to go back to my April 1st date. Okay, so remember here's all of the students who's been marked absent. So how can I find a particular code? And I want only that particular code. If I remember correctly, in this case, the teachers enter an A. And I have to go in and change those A's to the proper code maybe. So I could come in here and find those A's. If I do it, if I click on the plus sign, remember I can come here and I can say attendance code. And I can say, in my case, I'm going to do AE. Find just my AEs. And I can use this filter to find only the students who have an AE code. I'm going to hit apply. And then scenario 2. These scenarios are all in that folder. Might be something, those of you especially that are new, print it out. It kind of gives a variety of things going on and how to take care of it. So, it's kind of sometimes helpful when you're first starting out to have these to be able to reference. You can find something kind of close to your situation. So in this case, a student is arriving 20 minutes late. How can I mark that? daily attendance. He come in the office and he's 20 minutes late. I can, if you remember correctly, I got to get to my day. Unfortunately, we've got that issue. Okay, so I can click add. If he would not have already been marked. Well, the teacher may have marked him absent. I guess if he's 20 minutes late, teacher may have already marked him absent. So I would look to see if he's in this list. If he's in this list, I could bring him up by clicking the pencil and changing the code to tardy. And then I could put a note in, whatever it may be, and then I can put in that time. In this case, he already had some. So he came in at 20 minutes late. My day was supposed to start at 8:30, so he got here at 8:50 and was here till the end of the day. And I can save it and save. I changed the code to a tardy, so he's no longer in the absent list. He's in my tardy list. If he wasn't on the list, teacher hadn't taken attendance yet, I can come up to add, find the student. Alrighty, Benjamin. I can mark his tardy unexcused, and I can put in his reason, and then I can add the clock. He got here at 9:13 or 12, I guess, and then he was here till the end of the day. Whoops. And save. And then he's been added now. Okay. Let's find another scenario that's a little different. So let's see. We talked about a student who arrived late. Oops. And I'm going to do it on the overview page, just a little differently view. This was the student that arrived late to school. Or actually right on time, left. And I can see the explain. Just a quick little refresher here. I can click explain and see, yep, he was here all that time. Then he had missed that part of the day. So 10:15. Well, if I go back, he came back in at 11. So on this day, he came back at 11. So I need to add a second clock because that's the time he was here. He left, and now he's come back at 11. And then he was here till the end of the day. And I can put a note on this timepiece. So maybe he was at the doctor at the beginning. I can see on my explain now. Okay, he was here. He left for a little while, and now he's back. That looks right. Submit. And since I added more time, I have to think about, well, does that change his code? He wasn't in R, which was note received in their codes. But maybe I just need to mark that as a medical. He had went to the doctor. Oh, maybe they don't have. I'm sorry, this one doesn't have that. Maybe that's what theirs is. That's their medical note received. Okay. And if you notice, they put their notes in this was what happened first, and they put their initials because they have multiple people working on attendance. And then the doctor note was received. Someone went in and changed it because they received the doctor's note. And then those are those notes I can submit. His code does not need to be changed. Always think about that attendance code. You know, they go hand in hand with that time in and time out. Any questions? I mean, I guess, specifics that, you may have. Do you feel comfortable enough that you can go in and take some attendance when it's time? Kim, anything you want to add?
No, Laura, I think you covered pretty much all of the good points there in the scenarios as well.
Yeah, read through those scenarios. Those, and give it a try. They'll be very helpful for you.
Mhm.
If you, I mean, that's really everything. I mean, we kind of went through it all. If you have, questions you want to ask, we'll be on here a little bit longer. You can stick around. Questions come up, let us know. We'll
Hey,
see
Laura,
what we
I
can
do
do.
have a question.
Mhm.
A lot of times our attendance clerk asks what reports they should be doing and how often. And I apologize if you already talked about that. I had to step out for a little bit.
No,
I know you had said before, doing like the truancy and the chronic absenteeism summary. Obviously,
Mhm.
that's an important one.
That's critical. Yeah.
Yeah, but are there other ones that they should be doing?
We get that a lot, and there's a lot of reports out there. I would
Right.
suggest that it's varies in districts too by building, because my administrator wants to know this information and someone else's wants something a little different. I just really strongly suggest that you go out and just try these reports. Especially I always tend to go towards these custom reports because they're built a little more user friendly. The problem with attendance and reports is majority of them are core PowerSchool attendance. So, and we focus so much on House Bill 410. Core PowerSchool reports are great, just for some generic information about, how many days a kid's missed, or I want to see, maybe my percentage of, attendance and for a day, those types of things. But I just strongly suggest go out, read these little descriptions and try some. It's hard for me to tell you what you might or might not need. And I'm trying to think if there's any on here that we summary totals that we get a lot of questions on.
You do still have them do that ADA, ADM.
Yes, I did show that. That is
Okay.
very important, especially at the start of the year. I would say run that at least weekly that first month of school to be sure you're not missing any students, because if you see discrepancies on there, hours aren't, or the days aren't adding up right, absences and presence, or kids don't have that membership days, all of those things mean something. There's something not right set up, and you want to get those cleaned up so that you're getting all the funding for your kids, and they're making it to the promised land. So definitely run that first, weekly that first month, and then probably monthly after that to be sure something else hasn't slipped in.
Okay.
And I kind of showed, I'll show it again under reports and the system reports. I use this one often, and it's that attendance change history report.
Right.
Unfortunately, it won't let me run it in my test environment, but you learn so much about, what happened with this particular student, when why things were changed and the order. It started out teacher wrote this, and then somebody else went in and changed it to this, and then someone else changed it to something else, and when it was done. So that's a very useful report.
Perfect. All right, thank you.
Uh-huh. Anything else? Good luck. It'll get there. Talk, make sure you understand your policies for choosing the proper code when you have those, multi in and out situations in a day, and how you should handle them. And I think that's my biggest thing for you. All righty. Hey,
Thank you.
sure thing. I'll talk with you all later.
Okay.